Good evening, folks. Welcome to a new episode of Grant Kerkhof's learning series, Steam Locomotive Topics. Tonight, I will be discussing about another famous steam locomotive class of the Norfolk and Western Railroad, the famous Class J's. This is a Class J 484 steam locomotive from the Norfolk and Western Railway. They were built by the Roanoke, Virginia shops in 1941 to 1950. The most famous of the Class J's is Norfolk and Western 611. What's really cool about the Class J 484s is its streamlining appearance all over the boiler, the pilot, cab, and even the tender. So they are streamlined. That's because they're just streamlined to move. They are streamlined because they are designed to move pretty fast on passenger trains, and they can also occasionally haul freight trains. Now this here is a picture of a Norfolk and Western Class J 484 in a traditional steam locomotive appearance without the streamlining features of it. This Class J looks like a traditional steam locomotive. That's because it is not streamlined. In its unstreamlined appearance, the Class J's look exactly like its other class counterparts from different railroads, except for the front engine unit and the pilot. Or I'm wrong, the pilot also looks traditional too, when it is not streamlined. Now this is not a Class J locomotive. This here is a Norfolk and Western Class K 482 Mountain. Although the Class J's, as I told you before, came along in 1941 to supersede the Norfolk and Western Class K's, which are sometimes having trouble keeping up with schedules, and they're also pretty slow when it comes to passenger train service, and as well as occasional freight service. And that's what gave rise to the Class J's. However, there are also pictures and reports of Class K 482 mountain locomotives streamlined to look exactly like the Class J's. Although they are easy to identify because of their wheel arrangements, while the K class of the Norfolk and Western have a 482 wheel arrangement, the Class J is a 484. Well, just because you don't want to be confused by a steam locomotive's wheel arrangements. That is another Class J 484 pulling a passenger train. So the Class J's are express passenger locomotives for the Norfolk and Western. They were famous for pulling the Norfolk and Western's prominent passenger trains, such as the Powhatan train, the Pocahontas, and even the Cavalier, as I meant to say, from Norfolk, Virginia to Cincinnati, Ohio. The Class J's have also been known to pulling passenger trains from other railroads, such as the Southern Railway's Tennessean, the Birmingham Special, and the Pelican, between Bristol and Lynchburg, Virginia. Like all 484 steam locomotives of its wheel arrangement, the Norfolk and Western Class J 484s are capable of achieving speeds up to 100 to 110 miles per hour. In the late 1950s, like all other railroads in America that are switching to diesel power, the Norfolk and Western began purchasing diesel locomotives of their own, by leasing the E-Series diesel locomotives made by EMD. I could probably think this is an E6 or an E7, but let me know in the comments down below. Just to see what you think. I could be wrong though. Could be either an E7 or an E8. But as I said, let me know in the comments down below. But it could be an E7 though, by the way. As I was saying though, the Norfolk and Western had begun purchasing their own diesel locomotives in the late 1950s. Which means that the Class J's and many other steam locomotives have been bumped into freight service. This is a picture of a Class J 484 pulling a short freight train. So, if the Class J's were bumped into freight service, if they can pull freight service, just like pulling passenger cars on their passenger duties, then they sure can pull freight cars with ease, even over steep hills. As I did tell you, during the late 50s, when the Norfolk and Western began purchasing diesels, the Class J's and many other steam locomotives were placed into freight service, and the Class J's displayed their impressive design, just like they were displaying their performance on passenger trains, pulling short or long freight trains at speeds approaching 100 miles an hour. Then into the 1960s, most of the Class J's were retired and scrapped, along with many other steam locomotives of the Norfolk and Western. Except there's one Class J still around, and that's the famous 611. There's the 611 again, as I showed you earlier. The 611 is the only surviving Norfolk and Western Class J 484 today. It was retired back in '60. Wait, I think I was getting ahead of one thing. The 611 was built in 1950 and was delivered to the Norfolk and Western the same year, along with later Class J's that were built in 1950. And as I said the first time, it was eventually retired in 1960, but was restored back to running condition in 1982 for excursion service. It was sadly retired again in 1994, but soon returned to operation once more in 2015. And the 611 is still doing great today, although it did some excursion train assignments last year in the Shenandoah Valley. However, when the time is right, this year or any year, many steam rail fans will be ready to see the 611 thundering down the rail tracks for many generations to come. That's all I got for you guys for tonight. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Make sure you subscribe, like the video, and notify me in the comments below. I'll see you all next time.